Hello from ABA Tech Show 2017 in Chicago, Illinois. I'm Lee Rawles of the ABA Journal.
With Billie Tarascio.
And George Psiharis.
And we're on the road with Legal Talk Network. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the road. It's a pleasure to have you guys here. And today we are talking about how you can use performance data to improve your law practice. So first of all, Billie, George, can you tell me where you guys work, what you guys do?
Absolutely. So this is Billie Tarascio, and I'm an attorney and a law firm owner in Arizona. I own Modern Law. We do family law, and it's a small firm, 4 attorneys, 2 paralegals, and that's who I am.
And this is George Psiharis. I'm the Vice President of Business Operations at Clio, which is a tech company that makes a practice management platform specifically for law firms.
Okay. And then can you tell me just briefly, George, what the session was about?
Sure. So the session was divided into 2 halves. Obviously, I presented the first half, and Billie jumped in and did, I think, the more important part at the end, where basically we went through a collection of data insights we published last year that we called the Legal Trends Report. We consider it to be the first sort of benchmarking study that's ever been published using source data for legal. So I walked people through, I think, what the key takeaways were, and then I handed off to Billie, who described to us sort of what to do in implementing these things practically when you run your own law practice.
And Billie, I want to ask you, as the owner of a small law firm, often we think about data as something that, big law considers and big law does. What do you think is the benefit of looking at performance data for a smaller firm like yours?
That's a great question. So we started tracking and using data and key performance indicators roughly 2 to 3 years ago, and it changed everything. It changed absolutely everything. It changed our interaction with customers and clients. It changed the way we interacted and managed and measured employees. And most importantly, it made a huge difference in the bottom line revenue.
Now, when you're saying you're tracking performance data, what kind of things are you looking to record and examine? Is it just, profits that the firm is making? What kind of things are you looking for? George?
Sure, another great question. So we chose to look at certain financial ratios and outcomes that we think any law firm of any size can produce. So we looked at billable rates and the average hourly rates that firms charge for legal services. We looked at those distributed kind of across the country by state and by practice area. And we also looked at a few law firm ratios that we think are really, really important. And we called those utilization rate, realization rate, and collection rate. So basically, as a law firm, what are the kind of points at which you can measure how you're doing on extracting value out of the services that you provide?
Okay. Billie, when you talk to other law firm owners, have there been points of resistance that you've encountered about why more firms aren't trying to do this, trying to track data and use it to better their practice?
I would not say that I've encountered resistance. Most people are definitely interested. It comes down to time and priorities. The first step is figuring out priorities, number one, and second, what am I going to track and how am I going to track it? So it does take a little bit of a commitment to get there. In my firm, we track all sorts of key performance indicators. We are looking at how many leads call the law firm each month, how many of those leads schedule for consultations, how many of those people scheduled show up and pay for consultations, how many of those people become clients, by which attorney who did the consultation. So that's our first kind of set of key performance indicators. And then after that, we're tracking, okay, how much are we billing? How much are we collecting? How much are we utilizing? Are we meeting our goals? And we've broken it down to a by-day basis. And we report to a group, to our whole team through Slack, are we meeting our daily objectives? That simply helps everybody keep on track so there's no surprises.
Okay. And then, George, with the Legal Trend Report, you said this is basically the first large study that has been done. Was there anything that you found particularly surprising or counterintuitive to what you discovered?
Yeah, great question. And of course, the goal for any set of data insights is to surprise you, right? And so I think one of the key surprises we found was first that billable hourly rates for lawyers haven't really increased much over time. been very static, and if we compare them to other economic indicators like something called the Consumer Price Index, they may have increased a little bit, but versus things like inflation and the cost of living, they've actually been pretty flat. And this is over a period of around 7 years, from 2010 to 2016. The second major, I think, surprise for us was we looked at a stat called utilization rate, which is basically how much of your available time in a day do you put toward billable legal work. And we tracked it over firm size. So how did this rate change based on how many attorneys were in the firm? The idea is, I think, that by hiring more attorneys or by going into business together, that you will become more efficient, right? You'll be able to split the costs of support staff, you'll be able to share work with each other, and in general drive the utilization rate up. What we saw was as the size of the firm increased, it went up to a certain point, and then between 5 and 9 lawyers, it actually went down, and then resumed increasing after 10 lawyers in the firm. I don't really have a concrete explanation for that, but it was really surprising to see. And I know that in conversations with a lot of smaller firms around, there is this kind of air pocket that they say a lot of firms hit where they get to 5 to 10 lawyers and often have a lot of trouble growing from there. So this was surprising and unintuitive and could definitely be one of the reasons that we see that in the legal market.
Just a follow-up question about the support staff. When you're looking at the data for your law practice, how important is it to also be tracking the kind of things that your support staff is doing to support the firm?
That's a great question, and it's something that we did touch on. We have to track what our staff is doing in order to make decisions about staffing and duties. I was sharing earlier that I wasn't getting what I wanted from my office manager. I really wanted her to be working on executing kind of high-level technology ideas and marketing ideas, and she simply didn't ever get to it, and I was frustrated. But when we started really looking at how she was spending her time, it became clear that we needed a billing person. So much of her time was being eaten up with billing that I couldn't get what I wanted. Now, if I wasn't tracking her time, and she's not even a billable employee, but if I wasn't tracking her time, I'd have no idea. Likewise, with paralegals, if you track their time and you look at how they're spending their time and you find that they're doing a whole lot of clerical work, then you know that you either need to invest in technology that can do that for you so they can get to billable work, or maybe get a person to do that clerical work so they are freed up for billable tasks.
For our listeners who are interested in using data to improve their practice, what do you think are the first steps that they can take towards doing that?
I think there are a number of places to start, but as Billie mentioned in our talk today, a really important place is to just sit down and understand first, what can you count in your own law firm? What can you track and set some entry-level parameters? And then I think a second thing is to really check out this legal trends report that we've published and is available for free online. So it's just benchmarks that let you know what are the trends, right? What do other law firms have going on, and how might the things that you start to count compare to the things that you're tracking in your law firm, and how do you basically benchmark against industry standards for the profession. So I think those are both really important places to start.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the starting point really is determining what you want to accomplish and what you think might be broken. And then by determining what's most important, be it revenue or conversion or leads in the door, by determining what it is that you believe your problems are or you believe is most important, then you can determine what data you need in order to support your hypotheses and make decisions.
Okay. Well, before we close it out for today, I have one last question for you. If our listeners would like to follow up, how can they reach you? George?
Sure. You can reach me in a number of ways. Feel free to reach out on Twitter at George Psiharis, last name spelled Psiharis. You can feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. Happy to take inquiries there. And, of course, always available if you want to reach out to Clio, where I work. They'll be able to put you in touch with me directly.
And Billie?
You can find me on Twitter at mymodernlaw.com. Our website is mymodernlaw.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Billie Tarascio, Tarascio, and I would be happy to connect.
All right. Well, we've reached the end of the road for today's episode. I want to thank our guests for joining us today, and I also want to thank our listeners for tuning in. If you like what you've heard today, please rate us in iTunes. We'll see you next time for another episode of On the Road with Legal Talk Network.
Great job. Great job.
Woo, thank you guys.
You were awesome.
It's such an easier job than yours.
I agree. Well done.
If you'd like more information about what you've heard today, please visit LegalTalkNetwork.com. Subscribe via iTunes and RSS. Find us on Twitter and Facebook, or download our free Legal Talk Network app in Google Play and iTunes. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer.